Whoa. Your stand's going limp there, Tim. I hear that happens as you get older.
I got
Wouldn't know, but
LSD, limp stand
limp stand
syndrome, LSS.
Yeah, LSS, limp stand syndrome. Yeah, you need something going on, dude. It just wants to fall over. Give it a good old snugger. You know, I got a pair of blue pliers that might help you out with that. Make it just a little firmer.
I got a vice. Guys, we welcome Josh back from the world's largest archery tournament.
Oh, boy.
Is that fair to say?
I believe it
And the
is the
crowd
world's
goes
largest
wild.
indoor archery tournament. I don't
Podium
know if
archer.
I don't know if it's the largest tournament. I know it's the world's largest indoor tournament. For sure.
Yeah.
Pretty positive.
It's amazing there's a venue that could host that many nerds in one place, huh?
Well, that's the same place they hold the, I think it's the PBR or whatever, the rodeo.
I was going to say, I thought it was like Comic-Con or something.
Yeah. Oh, hey.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. Here we go. Zoa's on the menu today.
Yeah. We're out of the Jocko teas.
We get you our
He hasn't sent us any yet. Jocko, if you're listening, send us some of
We
them
get you our
teas.
best podcasts caffeinated.
This is the last peach, too. It makes me sad.
Very nice.
Do love the peach.
And we just committed to our first TAC of the year. You want to tell people about that?
Yeah, we're going to San Antonio. Got quite the motley crew going for this whole thing. We got two of us, obviously. Our wise and investment man, Brandon McDonald, Jason from Bow Disciples, and the Heavy Arrow Ranch Ferry fella. Should make for a pretty interesting couple days of shooting.
Troy Fowler, a.k.a. the Ranch Ferry.
Troy.
You think he'll be rocking an EZV?
I have a feeling he'll be shooting a peep and a specific sight and probably some lighter arrows, but I haven't messaged him on. He did say he was going to shoot lighter arrows. He's like, oh, you can't shoot that far away with those. So I'm like, yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I don't know if the San Antonio registration has closed.
Oh, I want to fill.
But we will be there.
Yeah, we were going to shoot Friday and Saturday. Is that right? I think that's what we said. Yeah. So we'll be down in the old San Antone area. And looking forward to it. I've also committed to Big Sky so far, and I'm contemplating a couple of ASAs right now. Because I haven't actually seen one of those yet, and there's a pretty good amount of people that go to those, and I'm trying to check everything out this year. Trying to gauge whether or not it's worthwhile, honestly, to like take trailers and equipment and stuff to sell to these events.
Well, you don't know till you go, right?
Yeah, and I know Lancaster goes to a lot of them, and they wouldn't do it if it wasn't profitable. So it's kind of like a justifiable excuse for why to go, and that's part of why I wanted to go to Vegas. I wanted to see how many people were really there. Was there a lot of money spent in booths and vendors and things of that nature? And, man, right when you walk in, the Lancaster trailer was off to the right, and there were lines like 6 rows across, 10 people deep just trying to buy stuff. I'm like, maybe that is worthwhile. You know, I have to look into that. But yeah, it ran really well. The event was really good. We actually stayed at the hotel across the street, which was a suites, so there was more room. I was down a couple days earlier.
What was the name of the place you stayed at?
It was the something View, Grandview. It's the Grandview Suites.
And it had a hot tub, so it was Josh Jones approved?
It did, but it wasn't a private hot tub, so I only got a hot tub like 2 nights because I didn't want to go down there with a whole bunch of people out there. And when I went down for my trade show, I went down on Monday, and there wasn't really a lot of people show up till Wednesday night. So I had a couple of days where it was open, like nobody was using it. So I was able to get my normal, at least my evening soak in, not a morning soak, but because I was working booths the whole time. But yeah, once I think Michael and I went down once he got down there. He came down Wednesday. I want to see either Wednesday night or Thursday night. We got to soak in because it wasn't quite busy yet. But then The Secret was out, and every younger teenager or whatnot was using it. And you could see the hot tub from our window. So you could just look out of your room and go, God, there's 6 people in there. I ain't going down there. So I only went down there when there was nobody. But yeah, I definitely do solidly approve of places with hot tubs because that's part of my keeping me comfy and keeping me loose and trying to not have my back hurt too much. But all in all, physically, I felt okay. It was the mental part that was hard.
So the summary of what Vegas is, it's the world's largest indoor archery shoot. You shoot Las Vegas style faces, and the scoring rings are 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. And the people that make it to the finals all hit a 10 for 90 arrows in a row.
Yeah, you shoot 3 rounds, one each day, and have to have a combined score of 900 to make it to the finals, with the exception of one lucky dog.
Lucky
They
dog.
have the lucky dog category, where if you shot an 899, you and everybody else who shot an 899 shoot off against each other for the opportunity to participate in the actual final.
And we got a guy we're going to talk to about the lucky dog.
We do. But we probably shouldn't preface it too much.
Yeah.
Let him, don't steal that thunder. So.
No.
But yeah, it's like I said, it was a really cool tournament. It was really neat to be able to sit there and watch everything. They actually shot on the floor of the arena. For the pros did, and then they had 2 separate rooms off to the side where flights, or what they considered like mid-level people, and they break you into groups eventually based off of your score, to where you still have an opportunity to win your group of people and win money. So the payouts go like really long ways. Like you could end up like another fellow, Brian, ended up winning his flight, or was high in his flight, one of the two, and he got a couple $100. Probably paid for his airfare, or paid for a night or two in his hotel. So that's a cool little bonus if you can shoot well on the 3rd day, that sort of thing. So based off of what
the people want to know, how did you do? How did it go?
I don't think I told you this. I shot. So before, let's preface this. I got my bow. Hang on. 8 days before I left, I think, was when I first put it together.
And your bow was?
My bow was a Title 38. Arguably the most accurate bow made currently, as far as what the census of people has been. That's not my opinion. That tends to be the bulk of the opinion. And I got it 8 days ahead of time, got it put together, shot one scoring round, got it roughly sighted in, shot one scoring round on Tuesday, tore it completely apart Wednesday morning, took off the rest, put a different rest on it, put a different bridge unit for the sight, changed the weight around, moved my bars around, retuned it, and then started shooting it again. And shot a lot better the next day. Shot it every day, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Shot 4 scoring rounds total, I want to say, or 4. I shot a scoring round on Tuesday, a scoring round on, it was either Wednesday or Thursday. It was Thursday. I think it was Thursday. And then I shot a scoring round on Saturday and a scoring round on Sunday. And my round on Saturday was a 298, which was, it's been minimum 12 years since I've even shot an indoor round for fun. Like, I have not shot indoor in a really long time.
And that was your first round?
That was the 3rd round I shot. That was the 3rd scoring round. My first scoring round I shot. No, this is not at Vegas.
You practiced.
I'm practiced. I'm talking about leading up.
Rewind, yeah, practice.
Right, to get an idea. So my first score that I'd shot with that thing was a 290, and I had a sight that was bridging into the riser, and I couldn't move it over enough, so I kept shooting off to the left, no matter what I did. And that was part of my point loss. I figured I probably shot like a 295 if I could actually point it at the middle. Second time I shot it, I shot a 295. Third time I shot it, I shot a 298. Fourth time I shot 297. I'm like, okay, well, I was not expecting to authentically compete. I didn't sign into the pro class. I signed into the flights because I figured I wasn't training, right? I didn't shoot it for 3 months before I went down there like typically people would for that indoor event. But I was okay with it. I was like, it's in the mid to high 90s. It's fine. I'm good.
And you're going down for the experience.
Yeah, going down for the experience. And I shot my last scoring round on Sunday, and I boxed it up Monday and drove to the airport at 11 a.m. Because we had a nice little direct flight. Did not shoot my bow again because I was working a trade show, which is early morning, late night.
Oh, you were working it? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't have a booth. I was working.
Right.
I
You
was
were just
buying product.
working around, yeah.
Yeah, working around, buying product and dealing with vendors. But yeah,
Kissing babies and shaking hands.
Some, but not quite as much. That's more at the show. But in any event, did that, or more at the tournament. But so those were long nights. No time to shoot my bow. I would have had to Uber or rent a car to get to a place where I could shoot because there wasn't one set up yet because they didn't open up the practice ranges until I want to say Wednesday night. And I shot practice Wednesday night, shot a little more practice Thursday. I think I shot 2 different times. And then the Wednesday night, everything was way more jittery than I thought it should be or felt like, right? And then Thursday was better, but not great. So I shot some. And then Friday is my first scoring end, and it was moving more than I would expect it to. But I ended up shooting a 295, which
What did your first end feel like? The first couple arrows?
I was like, wow, that's moving a lot. But once I got 3 holes in the target, it was all right. It's like, all right, we're fine. And I ended up shooting a 295 on my first day, which in my head was like my threshold for I'm not going to be really mad at myself as long as I shoot a 295 or better.
And you felt like you were working hard to shoot 295?
Yeah. I worked hard to shoot a 295 at the time, and like I said, my mental threshold at that time was that. And then come back the next day, I should say this, I had to shoot the latest line on Thursday or Friday. No, Friday, sorry. First line was on Friday, and it was 5:00, right? So all day long I had to think about it. All the way till 5:00, shoot a 95, and I'm like, I could have shot better. There were a couple that I'd like to take back, that just I let them drift too far and kept pulling. But either way, I was like, I'm not mad at myself, right? And I don't know if I talked to you about this or not, but the next day, that 295 number was in my head, and I know it was. And I thought it was, it's kind of ironic that you shot a 295 when you told yourself that's like the minimum of what you should be able to do. Well, it rolls around to the next day, and then I started feeling nervous. Authentically, like it's like it finally registered in my head that everyone that listens to this or watches my stuff is probably going to know how I do. And then I think I got nervous about it, authentically.
Leading up to, or?
After the first day. It's like it didn't occur to me the first day that everyone's going to know how I do. And then I had a different number in my head. I said, well, the worst you shot with his bow was a 290, right? So there's no way you'll do worse than that. And, man, the first day shots were pulling fine. It was normal cycle. Every once in a while, one goes off at the apex of your movement, right? So it's, a 9 instead of a 10. Right, because you're moving a little bigger than the 10. Because I didn't shoot the bow enough to put enough weight on it to get it to slow down a little more, and that was my fault because I wasn't prepping enough, and partially because I didn't get a bow till 8 days before I shot, and I wasn't shooting a bow at all. Like I haven't shot other than the videos for testing a bow out. I haven't shot since I killed that elk in late November. Like I haven't shot my bow at all. So physically, I wasn't really up to it just yet. But I figured 8-9 days of shooting was probably going to be enough. It really probably should have been at least 3 weeks. And in a perfect world, 2 or 3 months of like shooting for score under stress and pressure. Anyway, get in there and start shooting. And man, like it seemed like every arrow went off at the apex of my movement. Like every single one. Not like 1 out of 4. It's like every arrow went off at the apex of my movement. And I was... like my 10s were even like at the apex of the movement. Like what in the frick is going on? And it wouldn't stop. I got all the way, I think it was to the 7th end, and I had shot 1 point worse than I figured was the worst I could possibly do in my head. And I was trying not to think about it, and I was trying not to have that thought in my head, and it didn't seem to matter. And I was saying my mantra to myself every time I drew back, and I was trying to scream it, but it sounded like a whisper. Like I couldn't make it loud enough to overtake some of the other thoughts in my head. But as soon as I shot that score, which was a 289, I shot clean. Like as soon as I hit that number, the rest of them went right in the middle. And it didn't feel hard at all. I'm like, okay. So now I'm like, man, I probably ought to sit down and talk to Joel about this when I get time and when he's free. But he was constantly with people, as was I. Because it's like, this clearly has to be in my head. This has to be my brain, like, feeling like this is really where you should be or something. And I felt horrible personally. Like I was really mad at myself, like incredibly mad at myself. Had a hard time getting out of my head. I was trying to be really good with people and whatnot, because anytime you're walking around, there's there's 6,000 people rocking around down there, 7,000 people. There's people shooting and then others. And, a lot of people wanted to talk to you, say hi, say their thing and whatnot, which I love doing. Please come up to me and do it. I don't want you to stop doing it. I'm happy to do it. And if I tell you I got to go because of time or something like, hey, I got to be shooting over here in 10 minutes, that's the only reason I would ever not stop. I was constantly walking with Michael or somebody, and I was like, hey, just go. I'll catch you. Just go. And stayed and talked to whoever wanted to talk and what they wanted to talk about. And that's really why I was there. I wasn't really there to compete. I just figured all you guys out there would get really pissed if I didn't shoot a score. So, but in any event, I that day I was really down on myself after that. Like I was really mad, authentically. Once I got back to the room at 9:00 at night or 8:30 at night, I was just upset. I was upset. It really was at myself. I was like, how did you do that? Like, I don't get it. You're way better than that. I don't get it. And then one thought entered my mind before I went to bed. Well, at least you couldn't possibly do worse.
Oh.
Right? And I'll be fine. I'm good. I'll bounce back. I'll probably shoot a score similar to what I shot on the first day. Everything's going to be fine. And I was so mad that I didn't want to shoot my bow. I should have gone and shot my bow some and tried to mess with my setup a little bit because it was moving way too much. But I'm like, just don't touch it. Don't dick with it. Don't move it. Don't change it. Because if you start manipulating your bars, you can create some pressure in your hand and kind of force it to stop moving around a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go back to the third day. Same shoot time. I was at noon again. Line up on there and doing warm-ups and everything's fine. And, man, we start keeping score. It's the same thing. The freaking thing is moving all over the place again. A lot. And I think I shot like 2 9s right in my first round. Like, what the hell? No, I know I did. I shot 2 9s in my first round. I think I got to the 4th end, and I finally asked somebody, because I didn't have Allen wrenches on me. I was like, anybody got a 1/4-inch wrench? And one guy's like, yeah, I got one. And I started dicking with my bars. It's like, this thing won't stop moving. And if I would have gone to the range and messed with that, I probably would have resolved that, and I probably would have shot quite a bit better on the second day. But I moved that, and then my next arrow hit like that far to the right from where it was. So then I started clicking on my sight.
Yeah, because when you move your bars, it does change your point of
your
impact.
impact point a lot.
Yeah.
For those of you who haven't tried it, if you start messing with your bars, you're going to recite your bow.
Yeah, with a lot of weight on them or whatever.
It was moving so much, I was like, at this point, I don't care. If I have to shoot 3 9s to get this bow resighted in or 4 9s to get this bow resighted in, so be it. I don't care. Dude, I shot 2 8s. I haven't shot an 8 since 2000. Like, I've shot blueface a lot. I never shot in the blue ever, and I shot 2 8s. It was wild to me. I could not believe it. But it took me about 2 ends to get it hitting back in the middle after that, and I think it was round 7 again that I had dropped enough points that it was worse than the day before, and the rest went right in the middle. Like, dude, you're an idiot. Figured out I didn't have the magnification that I would normally put in my scope. Just grabbed it out of the package, didn't look at it. It was a lighter power, so I couldn't zoom in quite enough. And the size of my fiber was just big enough that it was completely covering the 10. And I think I was constantly moving around because I was trying to look at it and I couldn't see it. So I think that was part of what was really initiating the problem. But it was 100% clearly a mental issue. Like, it really was. I did not feel tired. I did not feel fatigued. I didn't feel like the bow was heavy. And when I first started shooting the bow, it felt really heavy. And then by 5 days in, it no longer felt heavy. It really didn't. So at the end of the day, that bow shot great, and I shot terrible, and it was really in my head. And I'm really glad that I shot so poorly. As much as it's something that I worried about, I really did. Because, does all of a sudden my credibility go away? Because I can't shoot as well? Because I shot a poor score there. A lot of people just kept saying the same things. Like, dude, it's Vegas. Like Brian, who shoots up here, right? He shoots, in practice, he'll shoot high 20s, 300s constantly. Like, he doesn't drop points. It's really rare. He had never shot a 300 in Vegas, and he's gone 8 times. Which, a really cool little side note to that, Brian was shooting at a different time than me. When Brian shot his first 300, mind you, I've known Brian since he was, I think, 17. I think it was when he first started working for me. He worked for me for 4 years when he was going through college. He came back and worked for another year when he was contemplating a different career, and worked while he kind of tried to work out what he wanted to do. He's kind of like a son to me. I've got a couple of guys that work for me over the years that are very much, to me, mentally like one of my boys. I watched Brian shoot his first 300 in my shop. He was getting close, and I sat there and watched him and called his last arrows and whatnot, and that was really, it meant a lot to him, meant a lot to me. And I watched Brian shoot his first 300 in Vegas. I was calling his last 3 ends, and he was like sweating like really hard. I was sitting back with my binos watching him shoot, and every end from like 7 on, he'd turn around and look at me, and I'm like, "You're good, you're good." And that was really cool. I got to do that. But then the next day, he fell apart, not nearly as bad as I did, but he's typically a better indoor shooter than me. Indoor's not my strength, but something now that I'm kind of going to be determined to somewhat make my strength, because I'm just pissed.
Yeah.
But that I allowed that to happen at all. But so there were really cool takeaways and positive things about it. But I get to see that, and then he shot way worse, and then ended up coming back and shooting a lot better on the third day.
Yeah.
But it's like it's Vegas, dude. Vegas breaks people. Like, people that shoot really well go to Vegas and shoot really bad in comparison, because it's just a different environment. And I didn't believe the people that I talked to ahead of time about that. I was like, "You've never felt anything like that." And they're right. I hadn't. I thought I had. No, that place will humble you. It really will. So almost pretty much everybody shoots worse in Vegas.
When you describe your float being a lot, were you fighting your bubble, or was your pin just
No,
erratic?
My pin was erratic.
Okay.
And the ironic part is I could draw it back, anchor in, do my breath, bring the pin down, and let it sit there for a second, like 1 or 2 seconds. It would just sit. And as soon as I started pulling, it was, and there wasn't a massive amount of consistency to what it was doing. It was just all over. And frequently the shots would break at the apex, like 2/3 of them, 3/4 of them. Like, as far out as my pin would possibly get, that's where it would go off, which doesn't normally happen. So one would be forced to believe mentally that I must have been looking at my pin, even though I was trying to look at the target. Like, mentally, I'm always trying to look at the target. I'm trying not to look at the pin. And traditionally, your arrow will end up going where you're looking. And my arrows kept going at the far distance my pin movement would be. So I must have not been able to mentally focus on my target. I must have been looking at my pin, and that's where it kept going off. And when you start looking at your pin, you move more. You do, because you're trying to move it back, right? As soon as you accept that your pin's moving, and you're like really embracing that your pin's moving and you're focusing on it, your brain is like, "Oh, move it back. Oh, move it back." And that amplifies the movement, because you're naturally going to float around in the middle, right? If you don't try to touch it, you don't try to move it, you just let it sit there. It's going to move out. It's going to move back in. It's going to move out. It's going to move back in. And 95% of the time, it's still in the middle, right? If you get everything balanced out right. And boy, I couldn't accept that very well. So it was, like I said, it was a very humbling experience, and I'm definitely fired up about it. I'm not shooting my bow the rest of the week, because being gone 8 days, the mountain of work that I have to do and try to catch up on and try to help out on is bonkers. Today's the end of day 2, right? I think, since I've been back. I got back Monday night.
Right,
I worked yesterday from before 7 a.m. till after 7 p.m. and then came back home and answered emails and messages as much as I could. And I was at work before 7 today, and it is like, what, 5:15, 5:30, something like that right now. And we'll be doing this one and another one till like 7:30, make my daughter dinner, and then I'll probably jump in the hot tub and answer messages and emails again for another half hour. Because when I'm gone that long, it's just a pile of work. So the whole week I'll probably end up working really long days. But it was well worth it, and I'm glad I did it. And the response I got from people was just great, like really great. Some of the guys I shot with were awesome. Like one of the guys I shot with came up and found me on the third day and gave him a big hug and wished him luck and whatnot. It was really cool, man. If you ever end up shooting in a group with me, I'm going to try to make everybody laugh a lot and try to loosen it up, because it's supposed to be fun, right? And when I shot so bad, I was really struggling to do that. And I always do that. I mean, you've been around me enough. That's just my personality. And I really struggled to do that. And I was really mad at myself. Like, how'd you let yourself get into that state and stay in that state? And that's where Joel come in and saved me at some point, I hope. I still haven't called him and talked to him about it. I was going to call him this week, but I didn't want to start trying to have that conversation until I felt like I was caught up on what needed to be done at the shop. But it's a phone call that by the time this airs, I'll have talked to him, I'm sure. But I was like, dude, I need to talk to you. Like, really need to talk to you. Because this almost frightened me. I can't believe that this went the way it did and how far it did. And I feel like I might need a little bit of help from a mental coach, and I've never felt like I needed help from a mental coach because I thought I had embraced the right things and the right thoughts, personally.
Well, the parallel I can draw in golf is player steps up, say there's water left of the green, water short of the green, they think, don't hit it in the water, ball goes in the water.
Right.
It's like your brain focuses on the wrong thing, and that's what ends up happening. So, all I know in archery is all we can do is shoot one arrow at a time, right? So the previous score you shot doesn't matter. The next score you shoot doesn't matter. All you can do is step up to that one arrow and try to be present and make one great shot and move forward to the next.
Yeah.
But at the same point, I'd be really curious just to have more conversations with some of the people who are able to make it through all those arrows clean and just ask them, like, where's your headset at? Are you just like in a flow state? Or are you consciously thinking about, where is your head at? I would like to converse with some of those archers that are doing really well at those events, because it is another layer of mental aptitude. And some of that aptitude is definitely built with arrows and confidence, right? Like,
sure.
When you've shot those thousands of arrows, you understand your gear very well. You build that confidence in your shot timing and your arrow float, and on your off days, where your misses are missing and how to fix those things. So some of that is built with time and repetition, but also some of it is a lot of it is the ability to have it dialed in mentally, whatever that means for that person.
Yeah.
And you hear that all the time from top archers, is like, at this game, it's mental, right? At that level, it's very mental for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be a fun conversation to have with some of those people that make it. Because what an interesting game. It's a game of perfect, How often is that game played, right?
Yeah, right.
Like,
it's pretty bonkers.
Yeah. It would be like, I don't know, in bowling, you'd have to shoot a 300 to make it to the next.
You got to bowl a perfect game.
You got to bowl a perfect game just to move forward. Yeah,
3 times.
Yeah, three times in a row.
3 times just to have an opportunity to move forward.
Kind
of makes you think that there should be some kind of curveball in there or something. How in the world?
Yeah,
do you
I don't
have
know.
that?
When I think about other sports that I've liked and played well and had success at, I mean, you're allowed to have a bobble.
Right.
You make a little mistake, so you fight back. But in Vegas, your mistake cost you your plane ticket home, basically.
Yeah, that's just part of the deal, and it's
a very interesting game. That's what I think is makes it interesting and cool. Yeah. What did you think about just the experience of being there and getting to watch some of these guys and gals shoot? Did you get to interact much with them?
Not really, no. Because you're shooting, if you don't sign into competition, you're in a different group. So you're in a different area. So you're not like standing by them. They have their own little area that you can see them, but you're not going down to them. I saw Crispy a couple of times, but outside of that, anybody that's like really legit, you'd see them walking by or something like that. But I spent a lot of time in, I guess you'd call it the vendor area. Dealt with most of the vendors, talked to a lot of people. There were times where it wasn't terribly hard to get for me to be, and there were times where it would take me an hour to move, what should take 2 minutes. But and a lot of great response, a lot of good stuff. I can't complain at all. But in general, my overall experience is phenomenal, and everyone should experience it. And you should shoot in it. Don't just go to watch it. Like, participate.
Yeah.
Like, get in there and experience what that sensation is like, because I can't even describe it. It was different. It was legit different, even though I've always been told that it's different. I never really got how different it is, because I've done lots of tournaments. Never felt like that. I've done indoor tournaments. Never felt like that. Like, it was different. It was legit hard.
Yeah.
So I have a greater respect for it than I did prior. But it also gives me a great, what's the right word? Great appreciation and a great desire to do it different and know what I need to do going forward, other than to try to ask Joel some mental questions of what I clearly I couldn't. I've never been able to not get a thought out of my head. Like if I started focusing on the wrong thing, I could get it out, and I could get it out pretty quick. I couldn't get it out, and I've always been able to. I've always had tricks to get me out of it. You name it, didn't matter. I couldn't get rid of it.
Next to shooting an animal,
Yeah.
is that the highest pressure you felt?
I'm not sure that shooting an animal felt like more pressure, honestly. But at the same point, and I had a couple people talking to me and going, it's like, well, it just kind of dawned on me that there could be 50,000 people that are looking at my score. Like it never occurred to me before. I was like, God, like that was a level of nervousness I didn't expect. And I do think that is honestly part of it.
Yeah.
I really do. I don't want to,
No,
I don't want to blame that on it, but
it's a real thing.
I think that was really,
it's
really
a real thing. Yeah. Those are all layers of pressure that are unique, like when we shoot with people for the first time in front of a camera, typically they're going to bobble more.
Oh yeah.
Because that's another layer of pressure that's unique to them. And they may be thinking about the people that are going to end up seeing it, and that happens to me every once in a while. It gets better with time for sure.
Yeah.
But,
well, yeah, but I've done that.
Yeah.
I've done it before. And I've always been, most people, when the things I would participate in, you could look up what my score was and see what it was.
Right.
Right. And I've always been somewhat of a public figure. Not as big of a public figure as I am now, but I've always been somewhat of a public
regionally,
figure.
I mean, for sure.
Regionally, it was huge, and that's all that really mattered because I wasn't on social media, so who the hell cares?
Yeah.
It was what your local people would think, right? And so I don't know if I just never thought about it, never occurred to me, never sunk in. I don't know, but I kind of felt like it sunk in.
Hit you at the wrong time.
I think it did. I really do. Honestly, I've looked back on it a lot and thought about it a lot. And I really think that's what it was more than anything. And I don't care what other people think has been very true. But at some point right there, I've clearly started to care what other people thought about that for one reason or another. So I was trying to bring some light to it, and I really should have done this. I thought it would have been very funny to the people who follow me on Instagram. But I thought about. And I was playing through trying to pick music for it. I was coming down the hotel because it's a bit of a good walk over to the South Point from where it is. It's not terrible, but you're walking for a little while, right? I thought about doing just a selfie record of, putting out a reel and going, have you ever shot so bad you want to kill yourself? You ever wanted to end it all because you just can't get this out of your thought process? Well, that's how yesterday went. Let's hope today's going to be better. Then I was picking like music about suicide to put in the background. I think it was what was it? It was I was reaching back way into my teens because when you're a teen, you're experiencing all kinds of new things, emotions, etc. And that you might think about that periodically, right? Not like do it or like seriously think about it, but you might embrace that kind of music a little bit more. And what was it? It was Silverchair, Suicidal Dream. I was looking at that for a little while.
You'd have to sing it because I'm not good with it.
It's not.
How's the rhythm go?
Oh, I'm trying to remember. I was listening to it then. It's slow. It's mellow. Silverchair was an Australian band that like exploded in my late teens, and then kind of went away. So not super well known. It was that, and then Third Eye Blind Jumper. It's like, I wish you would step back from that ledge, my friend.
Yeah.
Think about jumping off an edge of a building.
I know those lyrics.
Yeah, so in any event, I was trying to make some light of it, and I'm like, that might come off too bad, but I thought that would have been pretty funny.
Yeah.
And trying to just blow it off and say, hey, it's just Vegas, right? Let it go. Not that big a deal. So I'll redeem myself. It just might take a year.
Makes for a better story.
It does. And it can do it to anybody.
The lows make the highs better.
It does. Yeah, I mean, I dude, there are people that I know that shoot well that freaking blew an arrow out into the 7 or the 6. It's like, Whoa!
A lot
How'd
of
you do that?
A lot of our top regional types had some also rough goings down there.
Yeah. Yeah.
These are people that you'd expect at regional events to show up and shoot the question isn't if they're going to shoot 300, it's how many X's.
How many X's they're going to shoot? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you see those numbers falter, or, there's a mechanical failure, or why do these things show up when the pressure matters the most? Who knows? Because the pressure matters the most. So
Yeah.
it's just a unique thing to be able to process and go through that. Would you have any takes on the outcome of Vegas? You got to watch the shoot down live. Was that exciting?
Well, I was going to watch the shoot down live, and I kind of did because it was on TV behind me in the bar I was at, but I ended up running into Pete, who owns Stan Outdoors, and we ended up talking for like 2 hours straight. And really
Owns what outdoors?
Stan Releases.
Yeah.
The clicker.
Stan Kielowski or whatever it is.
Stanslawski.
Stanslawski.
He bought that from
Yeah.
Copper John Stan or what have you, but Pete Crawford, he's been he was with G5 for a while during some of G5's bigger booms. He started the outdoor group originally. Wow. Yeah, like he's been around the block a lot.
Dang.
And he bought Stan Releases, I want to say 2 years ago or something like that, and is just trying to grow that company.
Is he a active owner or passive owner?
I think he's relatively active.
Yeah.
Like he was working the booth and, whatnot. But I've known him since he started Elite. Like he was one of the original founding members of Elite Archery, and I knew him he came in here because that was a local company. Known him really a long time, but so we got to catching up and talking for a lot, and it was like you turn around and look, and there was nowhere to sit because half of the arena is blocked off, so because you can't safely stand there, right? And there was all the seats were full. I was like, yeah, you're not getting down there. So we just stayed in there and kept chatting, and they had it on all the TVs in the bar.
Right.
That
It was everywhere you could find it, I'm sure.
So you could see it. So I didn't actually physically watch it live. I was in the building, and you could hear the reactions and all that stuff, but there was no good visual place to watch it from if we walked over there. So we just stayed in there and kept chatting, solving the world's problems, planning out what's going to happen in this industry and where it's going, and how to try to fix the ATA show and trade shows because they're all falling apart and not doing well. Attendances are down in general. Money spent by vendors is down, etc. And it's a big problem. Like if you want to have a trade show in your sport, you're gonna have to do something because it's not doing well. And he actually was the head of that board at one point too, back in its heyday when it was really big. He's just a really cool guy. Like him a lot. Shout out to Pete, which he won't be listening to this, but hey, good dude. But anyway, yeah, it was cool to see, and I can't even remember the number of clean ends they had to shoot before somebody dropped an X. It was a lot. Like I can't remember.
In the final shoot off,
Yeah.
it was a lot.
Wasn't it 15?
I wanted to say 13 or 14.
Yeah, somebody told me it was 15.
These guys were that means they hit X's 13 or 14 times in a row, something like
Yeah,
that.
3 X's 13 or 14 times in a row before somebody finally dropped an X.
Yeah.
To have a winner.
So that's a 30X if you're shooting Vegas, right?
Yeah, for 30, that's an X per arrow,
X
right?
per arrow, yeah.
So if that's 15, no, that's a 450 round.
Yeah.
If they made it 15 rounds, that's a 450 round, which is like
450 round with X's, though.
With
not
X's.
10s, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
with
incredible.
X's. It's like Jesus.
The game is definitely elevating.
Yeah.
And, such has been the observation since indoor season rolled around. Like the Rushmore Rumble, so impressive. So many people were clean. Bodie Turner ended up winning that. Lancaster is the next major one, and that's like the first major, right? Like Lancaster's a big deal.
Yeah. One of the biggest change that I've seen this year by far is buttons.
Yeah.
Everybody was shooting hinges a year to 2 years ago.
More
and
buttons.
Almost all of them were shooting buttons.
Yeah, which is an interesting deal. Bodie ended up winning the Lancaster, but to win, he shot the Lancaster button 12 and then XX.
So
right?
how that shoot down went, and on the Lancaster, just to clarify for people who don't follow the target archery, you got the regular Vegas target, and then there's another little smaller circle that's smaller than the X ring.
Yep.
That's sitting between the 8 and the 7 ring.
Yep.
And if you miss
They call that the button.
the button,
Yeah,
sure.
12.
But if you miss that, you're getting either an 8 or 7, right? So basically, you lost,
Yeah, it's over.
and you can only call it once per 3 arrows.
Yep.
Right? And Bodie got up when it was his turn to shoot off against somebody, and he started first, and he shot an 11. The other guy shot an 11. He shot an 11. Other guy shot an 11. He shot an 11. The other guy called a 12 and shot a 12. So he had a point lead on him.
Yeah, he's one
and
down.
the rest of the way, the entire rest of the way to win that, Bodie had to shoot 12s every time, and he didn't miss one.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah,
I followed the Lancaster Classic the last couple of years, and I haven't seen any of that. Usually there's like a 10, and maybe someone shoots an 11 and a 12, but not 11, 11, 12 every single time. It was incredible. Mm-hmm. So Bodie going into Vegas, I was like, man, I always have high hopes for him because we know Joel. Yeah. You know Joel really well.
Oh, yeah.
And I've gotten to shoot with Bodie, gotten to spend some time around him, and he's got potential to potentially, at his age, he's the most impressive archer, resume wise, right?
Yeah, as long as he doesn't go off the rails for one reason or another as he turns into an adult, I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be dominant for the next 7 to 10 years. Physically, he shouldn't degrade for any reason to where it would be an issue. It's just if he
he's got potential to be the GOAT, right?
If he just loses focus on that wanting to be his goal would be the only thing that I could think could stand in the way of it.
Yeah. He's got potential to be the GOAT.
Yeah, it's not very often somebody is that dominant at a younger age to where you kind of have years on other people that have done it before that have been dominant. So be interesting to see. But I can tell you this much. Bodie's been shooting a button for a couple of years and nobody else was. Now everybody's all of a sudden shooting a button. Now, granted, he's a button with a click. It's a little different, but it's still a button.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all of a sudden going that way. So setting a trend, one might think.
The other guy that made it to the finals, he was a hinge, right? Marlowe?
Oh, I don't recall, honestly.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Either way, but buttons are definitely trendy. Bodie was not wearing Crocs, right?
I didn't notice.
Oh my gosh, dude! So
I was deep in solving the archery world's problems with Pete for 2 hours straight.
Yeah.
So
I think Bodie was wearing these cool Nike shoes that these guys. Did you see the little PSE? They filmed a little PSE reel. Yeah. So I think he was wearing those shoes in the finals.
Yeah, driving around Vegas in a big old white Cadillac with Elvis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Elvis, aka Dave. What's his last name?
Was that Cousins?
Cousins, yeah.
Was that Cousins?
I thought it was.
I have no idea. I saw it. I just never. It didn't register to me.
I thought it was Dave Cousins,
but that would make sense because he's PSC guy.
He was not wearing his Crocs, and when I saw that, I was sinking feeling in my gut.
Oh no!
I want to see Bodie in his Crocs because Bodie wins in his Crocs. It's on brand. It's what he does, and also part of me is I have a little bit of that. When it's working, don't change anything. You know what I mean? Don't change anything. Don't change what you're wearing. Don't change what your pocket is in. Don't change where your wallet is.
After those epic Croc Spurs,
yeah,
you didn't wear Crocs.
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
And then Bodie ended up dropping his point in the shoot ups, and I don't remember exactly what stage, but I was bummed to see Bodie go out.
Yeah.
But it ended up, was his name Matthias? Matthias?
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of Michael's favorite guys.
Yeah.
Matthias.
Michael's a big fan.
Yeah.
Matthias ended up winning it. Matthias Fullerton. He's also a young guy. I didn't realize how young he was.
He's pretty young.
And if you're kind of following the target archery world, he's been shooting incredible in a lot of his qualifiers and stuff. So he sealed the deal and won the indoor, won Las Vegas.
After 14 or 15 hands. God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems insurmountable. It's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, it's very impressive. Shooting a button.
Shooting a button. Hot button. Probably not a lot of weight on that trigger, I'm betting. Probably pretty light. Doesn't have to pull very much. Because as you'll know, the more pressure you put on it, typically the more the pin starts to move and wander a little bit. So that's it's a slippery slope, which, you try to hot button for a hot minute.
I do. Yeah.
Felt great for about 45 to 60 arrows, and then all of a sudden you're just all over the place. Reacting.
Yeah, I tried a hot button for maybe about a week, and then I shot one of our local regional tournaments, and I was telling you that it's the first time I've had it happen to me in a tournament setting where there was more pressure in the bow. Usually a little bit of the opposite would happen, and so what would happen was I'd go to wrap my thumb, and that thing would go off.
Yeah, and mine was much harder. I was shooting a thumb button, but I've almost always shot a thumb button.
Yeah. And a relatively cold thumb button.
Yeah, it's not hot.
Yeah.
I got some pressure in it because I want to have some back pressure.
Yep.
Dude, it was so hard to get it to go off.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. I was pulling that's the other thing that you've never really experienced unless you're in that big of an environment. You go up on the line, the clock's counting down before you start, and it's, buzzers and whatnot. And everybody pulls back at the same time, and you're sitting there and you're on target and you're anchored up and you start pulling and you're whop up, whop up, whop up, whop up, whop up, whop up, whop up. And the first thing that enters your head is, why isn't my release going off? Everybody else's has.
Yeah.
It's just, it's just, you've never experienced it. There's at one given time in any room, there's I got to think of the number, probably 200 to 300 people shooting at the exact same time.
Yeah.
There's either side of the room or pointing opposite directions. And that's your A group, and then there's a B group too. So there's 500 people in there shooting a Vegas round at the same time.
There's lots of distraction practice.
And then there's 4 different shooting times in each room. I mean, it's an insane amount of distraction. And you've probably never had so many people watching you shoot a bow at one time because there's a whole crowd of people. And if you let down and you end up being like 2 people standing up there when it's done, geez, it's an interesting deal. I can say to my benefit, the times where I had to let down and I was one of the last people up there, I almost always put it right in the middle after that, which was a good feeling because that's incurred more stress. But
so you're coming off of like a big event, honeymoon feeling a little bit. Do you think you want to scratch that competitive itch in a way where you do a small sampling of it every year? Or
it'll probably have to be a small sampling, and I'll probably never be able to really take it super seriously. And here's why: I work too much. I've got too many things going, too many expansions.
You want to build a business.
I want to build a business, and at the end of the day, I want to get more people in the sport.
Yeah.
And if I dedicate the kind of time it would take me to be really competitive, which I truly believe I could be, I would have to do less of helping people, like a lot less.
Yeah.
And I don't think I can do that. 'Cause, I mean, I can't go to all these things and participate in all these things if my business isn't running well. My business has to run well to where it's making money so I can help justify some of the expense of these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in order to be really competitive, I'd need to shoot a lot.
When there's such a point of diminishing
multiple hours a
returns,
day, right?
Let's say right now, as it sits for you, you could spend, say, a couple hours a week and probably be around that 300 area.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
if I get to a point that I have a free 30 hours a week in my schedule that isn't being spent on, trying to help people and whatnot in the ways that I've gone, then maybe.
But let's say, I mean, you could say you could do that. But for you to go from, say, intermittent 300 shooter or a most of the time 300 shooter to actually competing with those people that are at the high level, you would have to probably double or triple or quadruple your time investment, which is just, it becomes really unsustainable unless your goal is to only compete at that.
I think you got to shoot at least 3-4 hours every day.
Oh, for sure. It's got to be almost a job.
I think that's a minimum.
Yeah.
Really. To be able to get to that point and stay there and have a chance to win, a real chance to win. I think it's kind of a minimum reality.
Yeah.
And not to say that isn't something that I might enjoy at some point if I ever get to where I have the looseness in my schedule to be able to do it. I'm kind of targeting the senior class. I got like 6 years.
Yeah.
Then
I can kind of ramp up to that.
I can get to the old man class. So I was like, all right, I got 6 years to get everything grown and booming as much as I possibly can, and then I can just go shoot those things and actually dethrone Tim Gillingham. Watch out, Tim, I'm coming. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But great experience though, man. Even with a way worse outcome than I thought I could possibly do. It was still a great experience. Wouldn't change it for anything. A lot of immensely greatly positive feedback, and on the podcast a lot too.
Oh, that's cool.
Like a lot of really good feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. I want to see every big tournament. I want to go to and witness and be part of every big tournament that exists in the U.S. at least. To see what they're like, see how they're different, see what kind of attendance there really is, how many people are really paying attention, that kind of thing. Because, I mean, even from a business standpoint, it's smart to know. But still, see what kind of walks of life that I'm really affecting and helping. Or maybe I'm not. Maybe maybe there'll be a great conversations that's had at one of those things that makes me think differently about how I choose to do these things. I don't know, but so far I feel like I'm doing the best job I can, and I'm doing a good job at it.
Yeah, boots on the ground is really fun. That's what draws me back to these TAC events and stuff. Is they are fun, but I wouldn't necessarily go unless I got to see all these cool people that show up.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the podcast, Operation Take Down Karen,
Take down Karen.
right? That's
Yeah.
going pretty well.
Put that biatch in her place.
So to give you a summary, Operation Take Down Karen, we got Karen. Somebody left us a nasty review on the Apple Podcast app. And you guys kind of flooded the reviews to help us out.
Yeah.
And that's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Please keep it up. That was great.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Can we get one more wave of
yeah.
Operation Take Down Karen?
Yeah.
It helps your boys out quite a bit.
It really does.
Right?
It really does. And you know, you guys are responding. It's growing. There's more people listening. I'm really happy with how well it's gone.
Yeah.
And the
because you never know when you start something like this. Like,
no, this could have been a giant waste of time. You just don't know.
You don't know.
You don't know until you get there.
But to help us out, just leave a review on whatever podcast app you're listening to, or if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. That stuff does help. You know, the haters say we'll never get to 10,000 subscribers. That's what they say. Yeah.
Do they?
Say we'll never get there.
Wow. Well, let's prove them wrong.
Yeah.
Shall we?
So let's get there on YouTube and just leave us a review on your apps. Thank you guys, man. That stuff it helps.
Appreciate it much, for sure.
So Las Vegas, very fun tournament.
Yes.
Las Vegas. Let's talk about the bad.
The bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was a bobble.
The bad, my shooting.
Yeah.
What else was there?
There was a pretty serious bobble that I got to actually.
Oh, yeah.
I got to actually be a part of.
Yeah.
Because I've watched the shoot down the last couple of years. I get excited about watching these guys shoot the shoot off, and the whole time during their coverage, they're like, "Hey, you know, this year the shoot off's going to be behind a paywall, but this paywall is going to go to help the kids, or whatever." And I'm like, no,
honorable purpose, right?
Yeah, honorable purpose. I'm like, no big deal. I don't mind paying. $5 is what they wanted to ask. I knew that would ruffle some people, but I was like, hey, I'm just gonna watch this thing irregardless. Like
Archery Hooligan was all over it.
was he?
And Letdown.
Yeah.
Both of them were just boom, 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 boom. Which he messaged me while I was down there.
Oh, he did.
Said, how you doing? I said, terrible. And he goes, hey man, think of how many people wouldn't even dare show up.
Right.
You'll get through it.
Exactly.
Which
says a lot.
If you, speaking of, if I'm ever at an event, because I don't know who Archery Hooligan is, if I'm ever at an event where you're at it and you see me, please come up and say hi and tell me who you are. I'd like to know.
Yeah.
I know it's kind of top secret. I know some of the
one of your friends knows who he is. I will talk to you after the podcast.
Okay. Because I love his stuff, and he's never been nothing but nice. Or I'm assuming it's a he.
Yeah.
But yeah, never been nothing but nice.
But the whole time they're like, hey, this thing's going to be behind a paywall. You know, go get signed up. That's where it's going to be. That's where it's going to be. It was promoted heavily.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, the carrot they wanted to dangle was, and hang out because we're going to change the date and we're going to announce that. So more to come on that or whatever. But
oh yeah, that's a good one.
So I pay for it. I'm watching it. Everything's going fine. Coverage is okay. It's okay. And I'm like an hour and 45 minutes into it, and it just goes black. And I'm like, that's probably just me, right? Like, that's probably my stream. So I reset my app a couple times or whatever. I restart everything. And then I send them an email, and I'm like, hey, my stream's down. Can you help out or whatever? And they're like, you've probably done this. Have you checked this? I'm like, yep. And then I send them a screenshot. I'm like, this thing's black to the streaming service. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to hop on Instagram and send a DM to the Vegas shoot.
Right.
They have their own Instagram page. And I send them an Instagram message, and they're like, they just sent me back a YouTube link. So they did end up streaming it to YouTube for free, which is cool. But their stream got interrupted, didn't work, I don't know what happened. I don't know what the technical difficulties were, but it wasn't available for the people that paid it. And then they just issued a refund. It was what I understand the resolution to be. But I don't know. I mean, that was just really confusing. Why put it behind a paywall? I think on YouTube there was like 1.5 thousand people or 2,000 people streaming it. And how many of those people are going to pay for the stream? If only 2,000 people are watching on YouTube, maybe 10, 20% of those people are willing to pay for a stream.
Right.
You know?
So it's a couple grand.
Yeah.
To get beat up by hooligan and whatnot for like 3 days.
But
like
not,
there were
but
so
then
many
now,
there's so many different memes about it. For
now,
like 3
not
days.
only did you ask for it to be behind a paywall, but now you have a PR disaster.
Right? Now you look bad.
Because
and you look greedy.
Your paywall, the paywall thing didn't work.
Right.
It didn't actually work. So
Yeah.
I don't know. And then they moved the date, right?
Yeah.
Like a month later.
Yeah, so that would be the other fiasco, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So the part of the beauty of why you get so many people at it, and especially international people, is it's the week after Lancaster.
Yeah.
So international people can come over and compete in Lancaster, and then fly to Vegas and compete in Vegas.
Yeah.
And then go home, right? Because I mean, like a guy flying from freaking Sweden or, you know,
Was Matthias, he's Denmark, right?
I think he's Denmark. Yeah. So
But he's from Europe. So when he flies over, he's probably like coming a few days early for Lancaster, and then he's hanging out.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to do 2 separate trips.
Well, sure. And if you do Lancaster all the way to its end, you're not leaving until Monday.
Yeah.
So let's say you fly to Vegas Monday, have your day for travel. You've got, Tuesday, Wednesday to not really worry about too much of anything. But by Thursday, you better be shooting.
Yeah. It's
because you're scoring Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Probably half vacation, half tournament. They get to see a little bit of the U.S. and have a little bit of slack time, but they're not booking 2 trips.
Yeah. So how many people are going to really come back because now they got to do 2 trips?
That's who knows. But the other thing that's confusing to me is Vegas has become the apex of a lot of people's indoor schedule.
Sure.
So there's kind of this 3 or 4 month window where you hear people start talking about shooting indoors, indoor leagues happen, and then Vegas happens, and a lot of people transition their seasons.
Yeah, they're done shooting indoor. Now it's time to start setting up for outdoor target
So when you
stuff.
move that back, how does that change the seasons? How many people are still willing to participate? How many international people are willing to participate? I think the pro crowd, they're probably not going to change their schedules, but the people who are more like recreational participants, now they got to pick one or the other.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're going to see Lancaster's attendance and participation go way up, and I think you're going to see Vegas's go down.
And my prediction would be Lancaster does end up becoming the premier tournament, and Vegas fades away a little bit because Lancaster still seasonally is at that time of year, and Lancaster's tournament seems to have been growing the last 5 years.
Well, hasn't there been, I want to say there's 2 ASAs before the date they put for Vegas. So you got 2 like higher attendance outdoor tournaments. You're not shooting the same stuff, but it's typically the same bow, right? So, I mean, granted, they can have multiple bows and whatnot, but usually a guy really likes one particular bow that he's got and will use it for that, or girl. And yeah, I think it's a little idiotic. And to boot, it's like 4 casinos. Like you can stay at one of 4 casinos, and there's like an event center that it's being held at that supposedly everybody's in the same event center. It was the argument. Like I think they were trying to say they've outgrown the South Point space-wise, which might be true because there were 4 different places where you could shoot at, and there was little to no empty spaces, period, anywhere. And they had to add an extra shoot line.
Yeah.
So normally they never had a 5 o'clock shoot line, and there was a 5 o'clock shoot line every night. So that could be a contributor why they felt like they needed to find something that held more people.
Logistically, the Strip is a disaster. There's much less room for parking. I'm sure that they'll find a solution for parking given there's an event center.
The cost of going to that tournament's got to go way up.
The cost
too.
of the hotel's going to go up. Like the cost of hotels on the Strip on the weekend go up considerably. So it's a little bit of a confusing move, and especially the way they just built up like it was. They made it build up like it was a big announcement. It was a big deal. And
they're trying to make it sound like it was a good thing.
Like it was a good thing.
Everyone was kind of like, ugh.
And then I heard the crowd was silent when they made that announcement because that's how a lot of people are going to feel about that date being moved. I think the date being moved is probably a bigger deal for more people than the venue. Although the venue probably burns as well because it ends up being a higher cost. Different experience being on the Strip. Like, did you spend time on the Strip while you were there?
No, I didn't. I left one time.
The Strip's different, dude. It's busy. It's the Wild West of Vegas. imagine walking around the strip with your bow. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I wish it well because I love archery and the tournaments and stuff like that. But there's definitely gonna be some weird sentiment around that.
But yeah, I mean just the cost alone. Because I mean the rooms in the South Point, I want to say were under $100 a night.
Yeah,
like, that's not that much.
Because it's not a destination,
right?
It's an event center.
It's an event center, and you're hosting an event, so you keep the cost down. I mean, I was in the suites across the way, and I think it was still only like $120 a night or $130
That's incredible.
a night.
Like to
cheap.
get a suite on the strip.
Yeah, like in one of the places is Caesar's Palace. I mean, how much is Caesar's Palace a night?
I stayed on the strip on the weekend, and for a regular hotel room, it's pretty common for it to be like $175 to $250.
Yeah.
And then you go suite, you go nicer rooms, you tier up from there or whatever. And that was a couple years ago, so I don't know what it would be currently.
Yeah, it'll be real interesting to see how much what negotiation was there and why. I mean, maybe that weekend that they're doing it happens to be like a horrible attendance thing for Vegas, so they got a really good deal or something. I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see if that, if their attendance drops way off. You had 4,600 people participate in Vegas, and then there were a couple other things on like a Thursday deal.
Yeah.
But if you count the actual Vegas tournament, people that signed in to shoot Vegas, it's 4,600. So next year we'll see if it goes down or whatnot. But I can guarantee you Lancaster will go up. More people will shoot Lancaster because a percentage of people will choose not to shoot Vegas and they'll shoot Lancaster instead.
Well, and the payout at Lancaster, do you know what the winner got this year?
I never looked at it.
I want to say it was 25 or 35,000, but if that tournament gets doubled down on a little, or maybe a little more sponsor money comes in, that could easily push past the Vegas payout and just start being the premier indoor tournament for the season or whatever.
Well, the format in the finals is definitely awesome.
It's compelling.
It's very compelling.
It's fun to watch. I think
high risk, high reward options.
It's
cool.
Their live stream was uninterrupted.
Uninterrupted, worked really well. I watched it. We were watching it together.
Yeah, we hung out and watched it together.
Yeah, we sat down and watched it together while we were shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it was dope. Like Lancaster, if you're listening, which who knows, God, I doubt it. But if you're listening, you have a golden opportunity.
Yes.
To be the main big event.
Yeah.
You really do if you do it right. Yeah. And I would think that opportunity with your relations with vendors, because obviously you have big ones because you're the big dog, right? Like there's no reason you shouldn't be able to say, hey, let's turn this into what Vegas was.
Double down
and have this be when the indoor season kind of pushes into outdoor.
Mm-hmm.
Have this be the last thing.
Yeah.
Total huge opportunity there. I hope you take advantage of it, because honestly, that's just silly. It's really silly. You have a major, like the large outdoor or indoor tournament in a month and a week later, like 5 weeks later. It's just silly.
Yeah.
But that'll largely be dictated. A lot of those pros have things in their contract that they have to shoot Vegas.
Yes.
Like it's like you have to.
Yeah. I didn't understand that until I heard. It sounded like that's what Levi murmured, was like that's no longer in his contract. But for a long time, he just went to fulfill sponsor obligations or whatever.
He had to, and he didn't really want to. And I think I would be willing to bet a decent amount of them don't want to do it. They don't want to, but it's part of their obligation. Well, if you sit down with your sponsor and say, hey, I can't shoot back and forth here, and this is a month and a week later, maybe they'll let it go. Maybe they won't do it. So, and interestingly, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Yeah,
it'll be interesting. Pretty curious. Your experience was cool to hear about, and
it was cool to hear about. It wasn't cool to do.
Well, I bobbled myself at my little indoor shoot, and I can sympathize. And it's cool to hear that you have that little competitive streak is there, because it'll help keep you connected to that side.
I won't put myself in that situation again.
Yeah,
I'll never do that again. I'll be better.
Yeah.
I know myself. So, I'm a little fired up.
Any closing notes?
Practice a lot before you go to something like that, and realize you are going to shoot worse.
Yeah.
And it's going to be harder than you think. And sign up for Joel's course, because that's working on your mental game, and that's really where it was mental. It was 100% mental. and that everyone can really stand to work on that a lot.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to sign off today. Appreciate you guys. And we got a great podcast coming up. So, yeah, subscribe.